There is a proposal being considered to add a school to the Pleasant View area in Hamilton. This presentation explains why the proposal should be rejected. The location for the proposed school is in a pocket of rural land in Hamilton. The survey is called Pleasant View. It is situated below the Niagara Escarpment, west of Highway 6 and north of Highway 403. The lands are bound to the east by Highway 6, to the north by Patterson Road, to the west by York Road and Valley Road, and to the south by the Canadian National Rail Line and Old Guelph Road. The neighborhood is in the southeast corner of Pleasant View. 7 kilometers away from downtown Dundas, the neighborhood is on the outskirts of town. The neighborhood and surrounding features include Royal Botanical Gardens, RBG, Berry Tract, part of the Niagara Escarpment World Biosphere Reserve, Cartwright Nature Sanctuary, Nicholson Resource Management Area, York Road Acreage Conservation Area, home to the COST to Escarpment Project, Hopkins Tract, significant woodlands to the north and south, RBG Coots Paradise Sanctuary, and other RBG lands and water features, including the Long Pond. The property regarding the proposed school is located here, and the main building for the proposed school is an existing building. Prior to 1950, the land was used for agriculture and only a few homes existed. In 1951, a convent was built on the property. It was built to accommodate 100 sisters. In the decades that followed, the town of Dundas, City of Hamilton, and Government of Ontario began to think about land use more strategically, and rules were made and memorialized in various plans and zoning bylaws. These rules were decided considering many factors, including how to best service the needs of the people with municipal systems, such as water, wastewater, and transportation, the impact each type of property use will have on its surroundings, and the characteristics of the land itself, for example, identifying highly rich land appropriate for agriculture, and ecologically unique and significant land worthy of protecting from development. Since many plans and rules, such as the Niagara Escarpment Plan, were created after some development already occurred, some land uses which didn't match newly created rules were grandfathered in as existing uses. This means special permission is given allowing the property to continue to be used specifically as it was being used prior to the new rules, for example, as a convent. It is important to note here that since considerations do change over time, plans such as the Niagara Escarpment Plan and zoning bylaws have protocols in place for making exceptions to the rules. The number of sisters using the convent declined over the years, and the property was eventually sold to Columbia International College. Columbia International College asked for and was granted special permission to use the property as a dormitory for 36 students. This brings us where we are today. Columbia International College is now asking for special permission to use the property as a secondary school with 1,000 students and 80 staff. In addition to using the existing building as a school with an occupancy of 1,080, the request also seeks permission to build a new 1,370-person gymnasium, expand the on-site sewage treatment system to treat an additional 35,000 liters a day, and add 10 additional parking spots. There are a great many reasons to reject this proposal. In this presentation, we will focus in on the position that institutional uses, and in particular community and major institutional uses, are not appropriate in rural areas. After conducting significant research, the City of Hamilton implemented 3 institutional zones that group uses based on how they impact their surroundings: neighborhood institutional, community institutional, and major institutional, whereby neighborhood institutional has the least severe impact and major institutional has the most severe impact. A note here regarding the City of Hamilton's research. It concluded that secondary schools belong only in community or major institutional zones since they are not compatible and intrusive in small-scale environments. Using the City of Hamilton's institutional zones as terms of reference, the former convent use is considered a neighborhood institutional use, the smallest scale of institutional uses. Normally, even neighborhood institutional uses are not permitted in rural areas. In addition to allowing grandfathered in existing uses, as is the case with the convent, exceptions are sometimes allowed to permit a neighborhood institutional use in a rural area. However, criteria for making such special allowances includes the condition that the use be in direct service to the local neighborhood. However, the proponent is not asking for a new neighborhood institutional use. Rather, they are asking for the property to be used as a private secondary school. The school is not in service to the neighborhood, the Pleasant View area, or even the community of Dundas, but more importantly, the school is a use that is not compatible and would be intrusive in the rural area and would detrimentally affect the ecologically significant lands. So why is the proposed school not compatible, intrusive, and would pose harm to the lands? The reasons relate to two important things. One, the impact new buildings and structures have on their surroundings, and two, the impact occupancy, or in other words, the people using the property, have on their surroundings. Although the proposal is seeking to use an existing building for the school itself, the development application is also requesting permission to build a new 1,370-person gymnasium. Institutional uses, and in particular community and major institutional uses, are usually accompanied with large-scale buildings, and this is indeed the case here. The proposed gymnasium would span an area greater than 1,716 square meters. To put 1,716 square meters in perspective, the Smith Gym at McMaster University is 697 square meters. Noteworthy is the fact that to build a new single detached home in Pleasant View, the lot size must be at least 10 hectares and the maximum total lot coverage for all buildings is 300 square meters. This graphic is to scale. Why are such large lots required for the construction of a new single detached home? The reason is that the land in Pleasant View has been deemed ecologically significant and worthy of protecting from development. This single detached dwelling in Pleasant View was demolished and removed after a building permit was issued in error, not respecting the minimum 10-hectare requirement. The proposed gymnasium would be approximately 12 times the size of this home in lot coverage and 50% taller in height on a lot that is less than 20 hectares. To make way for the gymnasium, 48 trees would be removed. These 48 trees represent 42% of all the trees in this area of tree inventory. Amongst the trees that would be lost are a 125-year-old white oak, a 109-year-old sugar maple, a 144-year-old silver maple, a 148-year-old eastern white pine, a 112-year-old eastern white pine, and a 119-year-old red pine. It is important to note that the subject property is habitat for species at risk, species of conservation concern, and other wildlife. The property is also corridor for animal movement. There are 46 mammal species reported within 10 kilometers of the property. This green space would be replaced with the proposed gymnasium. The tree compensation plan would see these trees replaced with planting stock. The City of Hamilton requires 1-for-1 compensation for any trees to be removed. The minimum size for deciduous planting stock is 40 mm caliper. The minimum height for coniferous planting stock is 1.5 meters. Does the tree compensation plan adequately address the loss of 48 mature trees and natural habitat? Of the 48 trees that would be lost, It is easy to estimate the age of these 25 trees using their diameter at breast height and growth factor for the specific species. For these 25 trees alone, approximately 1,494 years of growth would be replaced with approximately 50 years of growth. This represents the impact the proposed gymnasium would have on the area and habitat for wildlife. This is significant. The property is in Ecoregion 7E. According to the Ontario government, the flora and fauna of this ecoregion are the most diverse in Canada. At the same time, this ecoregion is the most imperiled in Canada because of the amount of natural habitat that has been drained, cut, and converted. How can we prevent this from continuing to happen? Part of the answer is by not allowing a large institutional use in the rural area of Pleasantview, and instead co-locating the school in an urban community hub where the school and the gymnasium are appropriate. Now, why is the proposed occupancy of 1,080 not compatible and a threat to the rural land? Since the rural area has no municipal sewage treatment, as is typical in rural areas, the school would require an expansion of the on-site sewage treatment system to treat an additional 35,000 liters a day. This is the equivalent of sewage treatment for 23 three-bedroom homes. Municipal sewage treatment is preferred over on-site treatment because of the risks related to system failure. In this case, the Grindstone Creek watershed is at risk. It has been suggested that the risk of sewage treatment system failure is low, and the proponent plans monitoring as its sole mitigation measure. However, consider that in January of 2020, the Ministry of Environment confirmed an on-site sewage system leak did occur on the subject property. The sewage system failure that occurred in 2019 was not detected as the result of Columbia International College monitoring the system, but rather was detected and reported by local residents who could smell and see liquid seeping out of the ground in at least 2 locations. It is perhaps fortunate that this environmental mishap occurred when the former convent building was occupied by a maximum of 36 students, not 1,000 students as is being proposed. In addition to the real and significant risk associated with expanding the on-site sewage treatment system, the proposed occupancy of over 1,000 people has serious implications related to traffic volume, vehicle greenhouse gas emissions, and road safety. Let's look at traffic volume. According to the Transportation Impact Study, to transport 1,000 students and 80 staff to and from the proposed school, it would take 20 two-way school bus trips and 80 one-way staff vehicle trips each morning and each afternoon for a combined total of 240 trips each school day. This is the route off of York Road these vehicles would take. It's no surprise that this corner lot home, with a homemade skating rink in the winter and a temporary pool in the summer, is a gathering place for the kids in the neighborhood. So let's take a look at the traffic impact along this stretch of road. Here's the traffic count data for Zellens Road. 1 pedestrian, 0 cars, and 0 trucks from 4 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. Now that we have the numbers, let's look at what the current situation is like and what the future situation would be in terms of traffic volume. Here is the before and after side-by-side simulation of the traffic volume for the afternoon period. Given there will be no more activity on the before side, since the neighborhood is currently a very quiet area, let's use the remainder of this simulation to discuss vehicle greenhouse gas emissions. Virtually all governing documents that relate to the consideration of this proposal, such as provincial policy statement, include objectives and/or policy statements that prioritize public health and encourage the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. The school bus trips that you see here would travel through Hamilton's urban area, through Hamilton communities, to the subject property on the outskirts of Hamilton each school day, adding new and unnecessary pollution to our neighborhoods and greenhouse gas emissions to the environment. Since there is no mention of using electric buses in the application, and 95% of school buses on the road today use diesel fuel, it is assumed buses would be powered by diesel. According to the Government of Canada and the Canadian Medical Association, exposure to diesel exhaust poses significant risk to health. Note that the Transportation Impact Study indicates that additional shuttle bus trips would be expected in the evening related to students who participate in after-hour activities. This traffic volume is not compatible with the small-scale rural neighborhood. Not only would this amount of new traffic each day affect the ability of local residents to enjoy their homes, it is a danger to wildlife. Now let's take a brief look at road safety. Here's what we know from the Transportation Impact Study. All school buses would come from Hamilton's urban area. York Road and Old Guelph Road is operating at or above capacity. York Road and Newman Road has safety issues. York Road and Highway 6 is approaching its capacity. Old York Road and Plains Road West is expected to experience long delays. The Transportation Impact Study goes on to suggest a series of mitigation measures, including introducing traffic signal lights, installing a flashing beacon, trimming foliage, enforcing speed limits, reprofiling the road, introducing a turning lane, and installing semi-actuated signals. In addition, since January of 2020, when the Transportation Impact Study was prepared, rehabilitation of the Newman Road overpass has been suggested. The overpass, that is on the only route in and out of the neighborhood, is less than 20 years old. Many of the neighborhood residents who use the overpass daily do not see any reason to rehabilitate the overpass and speculate that the proposed rehabilitation must be connected to the proposed school. Any expenditure by the Ministry of Transportation or the City of Hamilton related to transportation that would be in response to accommodating the secondary school in the rural area, as opposed to locating the school in an urban area where access to transit and active transportation exists, should be avoided. Such unnecessary expenditure would be at the taxpayer's expense. Furthermore, the school is a private enterprise, not a public school. Provincial Policy Statement, a governing document for considering the secondary school proposal, offers a simple solution to road safety concerns. It suggests that public service facilities should be co-located in community hubs, where appropriate, to promote cost-effectiveness and facilitate service integration and access to transit and active transportation. The school may not be a public service facility, as it is a private secondary school, and whether the school is subsidized by the government or other body is unknown. However, what makes sense for public service facilities also makes sense for private service facilities. In conclusion, the school should be co-located in the community hub where the students reside, urban Hamilton. This would ensure use of the municipal sewage system is leveraged, supporting the protection of the environment and minimizing risks to human health and safety. Effective and efficient delivery of emergency management services is supported, and access to existing transportation is provided, reducing commute journeys and transportation congestion. Cost effectiveness, not adding unnecessary costs to provincial and city budgets and ultimately to taxpayers. Students could easily walk and cycle to school, and the City of Hamilton is supported with its planning efforts, including its intention to locate private community facilities in urban areas of Hamilton. New greenhouse gas emissions are not introduced. And ultimately, Niagara Escarpment land is maintained as a continuous natural environment, and Pleasant View is protected from inappropriate development. Thank you for watching this video.